first things we're looking for is an interesting and unique kind of sound. We're definitely not looking to release something exactly like what we just released. I think that's kind of a really common mistake, or at least a common misconception that often will happen, is that an artist will hear the latest release on the label or the latest release from Axwell, and they will make the assumption that that's exactly what we're looking for. And that might apply to other labels, but certainly from our point of view, if we've just released something in a certain sound, it's highly unlikely that that's something we would want to repeat the next week or the next month, because the other thing to consider is actually some records, maybe in the, we've had some instances where some releases we put out have taken 9 years to be released. So having worked on something for that amount of time, we're not going to be then the next week kind of releasing something very similar. So yes, ultimately we're looking to hear from people some unique ideas, ideally a sound that is rounded, that you could identify immediately that is that person's sound. And I think that's one thing. And another thing to really consider is that a lot of producers send us demos, often with the caveat of this is unfinished, but I will add, I'll mix it down better later, or I will add a top line or this and that. And my advice would be, get it to be as good as it can possibly be, where you feel it's 100% done. If you're already sending it with the caveat that actually it could be better, the reality is, even if you send it as good as you think it will be, the likelihood is someone like Axe, with all his experience, because everything we sign will go through him and he will give some feedback. So my advice would be just get it as finished as possible before you send it. You need to try to be as authentic as possible. People now have a kind of fixation with, whether social media, image, and these things overall are important, but I think it's important to be very confident in yourself, and not try and be Axwell, don't try and be Skrillex, don't try and be Deadmau5, because those people have their own ways, and what people like about them is their authenticity and their authenticity of their look and their voice, and when they talk about music you can tell that it comes from the heart. And often I think there's a kind of a feeling that, this person has done this, so I must try and replicate that. And I think that's just a mistake, when actually, if you're just yourself, no one can be a better you than you. Just be confident in what you're doing, because, I think once upon a time when Swedish House Mafia, when they put their video out and their film, there was a lot of humour, because naturally they had a very good rapport, and they obviously were having a lot of fun in it, and it was funny and amusing, and they were living the life. And I think there was a wave when they were putting those videos out of people trying to kind of replicate that, but it just wasn't as funny because it was obviously staged, and that makes me think about why people liked the SHM so much, and still do, because it was authentic, and they were living the life and being themselves, and the relationships between each other, and was just so natural. And I think that's part and parcel of why people like them so much, because they literally were living it and being themselves. So just present yourself in a natural, a normal way. We're not expecting you to sort of walk through the door and be, the finished article, a rock star or whatever. Just be normal. It's fine. For us, the social media numbers are not that important. If anything, I kind of have a look at them to see if they are artificially manipulating them, because that in a way gives me a bit of an idea about who they maybe are and the sort of image they're trying to portray. First and foremost, most things we're considering is this track something that maybe Axwell can play? And is it something that if he plays it for the first time, or Axtone Records play it for the first time, or Swedish House Mafia will 10,000, 20,000 people love it straight off the bat? That is the first and only thought when we first hear some music, and then if it's still excellent music and still, but it doesn't necessarily fit within those rules, we'll still kind of think about what can we provide, are we the right platform for that music, but certainly not really considering what the image is, who sent it, where they're from. That's just not interesting. Are they making music that we think is great? I know it varies from label to label, but certainly for Axtone, that's the only thing we're worried about. I mean, I've been working for Axtone and with Axwell for 9 years, and I have a bit of an idea about what he likes, but more often than not I'm wrong. He's never saying to us, oh, we must sign a trance record or we must sign something big room. Everything just kind of gets listened to on its own merit, and I think historically there is a perception within Axtone that we are a particular sound, but over the last kind of 13 years, as we've kind of added more staff, there's kind of it comes with different experiences. So you've got some people that kind of maybe come from a hip hop background, or maybe a band background, or straight up like me. I grew up on happy hardcore and trance, so I kind of come from a slightly different background as well. So it's kind of all, and obviously Axe he's gone through all sorts of styles, house music styles. So you kind of have that kind of hot pot of different kind of tastes and influences, and I guess when you sort of put all that together, there is something there. I think there probably is an intrinsically Axtone sound, but that kind of comes with sonics as well, and certain types of melodies, certain types of vocals. But it's quite nuanced. So sometimes a track might have the right feeling, but it might be the arrangement that kind of makes it perhaps maybe something more for a label like Angello or something like that, which historically there wasn't much crossover, then at some point there was a bit of crossover, now we're probably a little bit further apart, but I mean ultimately it's just what we're trying to release is records that will get played to 10, 20, 100,000 people, and hopefully will get played for a long, long time. That's our main thing. I think my advice would be start doing your own stuff. Don't like chase it. It doesn't matter what label you're trying to get signed to, or management, or your booking agency. The more you can kind of do yourself, the more self-sustained you are. Whether that's be, if you're in a town, meet other DJs, meet other producers, maybe put on a night, that way, maybe book some Axtone related artists at a night that you're kind of running. There is a perception that there's this, it's this big mysterious world, but actually there's not. In reality, there's not that many people kind of working at the label or even signed to the label. And I think if you're really into the music, make sure you're going to the events, because actually, we do Axtone events all around the world. So sometimes maybe you might meet like a DOD or New ID or Shapov or someone like that, and just get to know the people, at the label, because they'll be at the events. And the way to get yourself noticed is just get to know the people, because a lot of the industry, there's so much relationship based. It's just become friends with them. It's that simple, because it's much harder to get noticed via email. Yes, you can add people on Facebook, but it's a very impersonal way of doing it, and it's also it can be a little bit intrusive, because of course, Facebook, maybe people have got they might have their mum on there, and it's just that they have a different relationship with the people they're kind of conversing with. So yeah, be a real person, go to the events, come to something like IMS, ADE, you'll meet the people there, and I think that makes all the difference. Well, I think Swedish House Mafia genuinely have something unique that the three guys collectively kind of bring, from their production skills to the way they converse with one another, to the, you know, I think the level of detail that goes into the production, whether it be the live show, whether it be, obviously, you know, the music is ultimately everything, and they have kind of individually and collectively had so many different kind of waves of careers and set so many trends. It's kind of hard to sort of deny that, I guess. And also what they genuinely brought to the table was they behave and were like rock stars, and I think that's what people love about them and they will continue to bring when they're together. I mean, I think that, you know, I was personally very excited about the sort of Ultra show, and exceeded all expectations, I think, for everyone, and just seeing them back together, and, you know, and then also seeing how excited people were and how happy they were that it happened, and they just have an unmistakable bond with each other, and that's impossible to kind of replicate. And I think, good luck anyone that would try. But certainly, you know, the music continues to resonate now, and I think I mean, one interesting thing is I think people feel like they did a lot more shows historically than they actually did. So that's kind of quite. I think they were a lot of their shows, apart from the last tour, there weren't that really as many shows as it feels. Certainly as powerful as the entity is and perceived to be. And I think that was part of how there was so much sort of hype around them. It's a lot of scarcity, I guess, historically. But yeah, their bond, their music, and, you know, this eye for detail, and also, I guess, you know, I really know of the three, like, you know, I've worked with Axe, not really the other two, but his ability to kind of get a record from 90% to 100%, and how he would just keep on working and working and working. That work ethic is incredible, and I think, yeah, that's one thing I would sort of say to any kind of aspiring DJ producer is, if you see how hard he works, you know, he will work and work. He will spend days EQing a kit. So that's the level of detail that it takes, and you know, that's just one part of it.